What is up, guys? Orbital-Pilot back here, once again, in the world's Warthunder, this time taking to the skies in a bf-109 F1. Now, I know some of you guys may be thinking, hey, didn't you just fly off this plane a couple of days ago? But, this is my new series, labeled Plane vs. Plane. And I told you guys about this series last week, although I didn't give away any spoilers on what this was going to be, or, any more information on it. So basically, in this series, we are going to pitch two planes against each other, and I'm going to tell you which one I prefer, and which one's better. So, there are a couple of rules, and those two rules are, the two planes must have fought each other historically. Now, that's obviously to keep some balance in there. Obviously, you don't want 1945 planes fighting 1940 planes. And the second one is, the battle rating must not be one higher. So for instance, this is a 2.3 plane. The highest battle rating it can fight is a 3.0. Nothing less, or I'm sorry, nothing more, but it can fight lower tier things. For instance, it could fight a 1.7 plane, not a 1.3 though. So let's get started with the two planes for this week. These two planes for this week are the bf-109 F1 and the Spitfire Mark IIB. I figured I would start off with some lower tier stuff just to get used to the series and just to get used with the rating system and everything. So at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a rating on which one I think is the best and why that is. So let's get started with the bf-109 F1. Now, this is a plane that first flew in 1938, this body style. It did see combat in the Battle of Britain, so around that 1940 time period is the prime time for this plane. Now, this plane is fitted with two machine guns, 7.92 millimeters, along with one 20 millimeter cannon, sorry guys, with 60 shells. Now, that's the part I don't like about this plane. If you are familiar with the MG FF cannons, you'll know that some people love them, some people hate them. However, the early ones, for instance, the one on this plane, has a ridiculously low velocity. I mean, it is pathetically low. If you go and fire Hispano, you don't have to lead too much. However, fighting these planes, fighting with these guns, you're going to be leading a lot more. Now, as you can see there, easily clipped that guy out of the sky. I think he actually just hit the ground. I'm not sure if I actually damaged him too bad, but, I will take it. So let's talk about engine performance. In my opinion, this is the best performing plane at this tier. Now, like I said before, this is a 2.3 battle rating plane, and it's basically, it's unparalleled with anything else. Of course, you will go against early Spitfires. You will go against F4Fs, F2As, and any low-tier stuff. Now, the only planes that even compare to the engine performance is, of course, the Yaks at low altitude. But, they're Yaks, so they're going to quickly lose performance with altitude. The second plane is actually the F2A Buffalo. That plane's extremely light with a decent horsepower engine. So it actually performs quite similar to this plane. Now, as we can see there, those cannons are just not doing a lot of work. That was probably 20 shells into the back of a plane. Not all of them hit, but I probably got 20 in there. And it's barely affecting that guy. Now, the machine guns are great. They will not rip anything in half or anything, but they do cause consistent damage, and that's my number one go-to thing with planes, is the guns need consistent damage. Now, when I say consistent, I mean when I pull that trigger, I want them to perform like they always do. That's why I'm such a big fan of Hispanos. That's why I love the 50 caliber machine guns on American planes, because they're consistent. And even though some people think they're overpowered, some people think they're underpowered, they are consistent. I can look at a plane in the future tech line and say, okay, that has 4 machine guns. I know what it's going to perform like. I cannot do that with these cannons. And that's what I really don't like about them. So, as I was going on previously with engine performance, this plane is one of the best energy fighters in the game. Of course, it's a bf-109. They're known for that. But seriously, the young bf-109s are absolutely magnificent. Far better than a P-40. Far better. Far better than just about anything you will fight. Now, some will say, you know, Spitfires can compete. Yes and no. Spitfires aren't as fast as these planes. I have outran them in the past, and I will probably continue to do so. So, let's talk about this plane against one of the most iconic planes for the Americans at this tech line. I'm sorry, at this tier. And that is the P-40. Now, originally I was going to do this plane against the P-40, but the P-40 is just dreadfully bad. Now, do I love it? Yes. But that's just because it was my first monoplane wing, mono-wing plane in the game, and that's why I love it. But it's a terrible plane in my opinion. It's heavy, has very, very low horsepower to weight ratio, which is very, very difficult to fight with. So, compared to the bf-109 F1, this plane is light, has tons of horsepower, and you will see I am easily able to keep up with this guy. Even once he gets out of a dive, he just cannot retain that energy. Now, I'm not sure what his upgrade status is, but even if it's maxed out, I wouldn't be surprised if this is what it was. So, as we can see there, I did not get any shots off. My teammate did not get any shots off on that plane. However, we put him in a low energy state, we had him turning, and the P-40 is incapable of even providing enough horsepower to get lift under those wings and fly. I mean, he simply crashes just because, not of damage, but because of the lack of horsepower. So let's move on to the Spitfire Mark IIB, a plane that some people love and some people hate. Now, personally, I'm not a huge fan of this plane. I actually like the Spitfire Mark V's better. That's when I feel like the Spitfires really start to state what they are. I feel at these early tiers, they're turn fighters, they like a little energy fighting, but I don't really feel like they have that Spitfire core. Now, some people will disagree. I'm sure lots of people will disagree and, say that these are turn fighters, but honestly, after flying so many Japanese planes, this kind of feels weird, and I really prefer the higher tier Spitfires. But that's not what we're comparing it with. Let's go back to the Spitfire Mark IIB. Engine performance, lacking. Yeah, lacking. Compared to the bf-109 F1 in a straight line, this plane is not as fast. This plane is spaded, guys. It doesn't climb as well as the bf-109s. Not the early ones, at least. Which I found surprising because I seem to remember these Spitfires climbing ridiculously well, but that could just be my memory. As we know, I haven't flown these early tier Spitfires in quite a long time, so it could just be my memory. However, what they are good at is vertical maneuvers. They are very, very light. They provide a lot of lift, so great at turning. And against these bf-109s, especially if you get them in a state like this, where this guy is energy fighting with me, which is fine, but you shouldn't be doing that against a Spitfire, especially in vertical maneuvers. And here's where I make my mistake. This is very, very hard to control, especially when you don't have your crews all the way upgraded, and because none of these crews are my jet pilots, they're not upgraded at all. So I kept on blacking out, and that was kind of annoying. So if you're ever flying this plane and you're getting outran by a bf-109, here's what I recommend doing. Shoot some shells at them, just some 7.7s. Let them know that, hey, you're still behind here. And most of the time, these early tier pilots will think, oh no, he's catching up to me, I need to turn. And that's exactly what he shouldn't have done. If he had just kept his distance, extended the dive out, he would have easily outran me and I would have been left in the dust. Instead, he turns around and starts turn fighting me. which is great. But here's the scary thing. He's beating me in the turn fight. I'm sorry, I'm beating him in the turn fight, but I'm not beating him by a lot. He's actually keeping up with me. And that was kind of scary at first, because I always remember these Spitfires turning on a dime. But that could just be my memory. So, luckily enough, I do get that last hit on him and send him into the ground. So let's go to another match on Hokkaido. Yes, the dreadful Hokkaido map. You either love it or hate it. I absolutely hate it. I don't know what that was about. Sorry, guys. Now, here's two things about Hokkaido. Either the Americans will climb to ridiculous altitudes, which I've had happen, I don't know, 3-4 times, or they will go ground pounding, which is what most American teams do. Now, some pilots will always climb, and I feel bad for those pilots because I'm always one of them, and yeah, you gotta climb in American planes, but that's not what these guys think. So try to get some shots off. Yes and no. These earlier Hispanos, the Mark 1s, they don't have nearly as fast as velocity and muzzle rate. So you gotta aim them a little bit more, and I didn't do that there. So somebody comes guns blazing from the sky. I don't know who it was. I never actually found out. I think it was the P-40. I'm not quite sure. I don't know who it was. I look around, and yeah, no one's around me. So I'm like, okay, that's fine and all. I will just go, pick on this guy. So the Spitfire Mark IIB is also loaded with 2 Mark I Hispanos, along with 4 7.7s. Now, 7.7s on the British line are no joke. These things got buffed a couple patches ago, and I never went back and played the earlier tiers, but wow, these things are pretty dangerous, especially when you get quite a lot of them. However, what most British pilots look forward to are those twin Mark I Hispanos. And as we can see there, absolutely shred planes apart. Now, somehow I don't get this kill. Like I said, coming from a higher tier, I'm always trying to go back up for altitude instead of following these guys down, but somehow my kill gets jacked, which I don't really mind. I can't research anything, so it's fine with me. So, comparing these two planes, guys, I will take the bf-109 F1 any day of the week. Combined with the bf-109's guns, along with the engine performance, I feel like the Spitfire does not provide enough ups to counter the bf-109. The bf-109 performs better in speed. It doesn't perform too much worse in turning capabilities, and I prefer the guns. Even though this one has more cannons, I still will take the German consistency of just the engine performance alone. And right there I make a brutal mistake, but I was kind of desperate to get that kill. So guys, thank you for watching, and if you have any advice or tips on the series, any 2 planes you want me to fly out, let me know, and I will surely do that. If you like what you saw, please hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys next time.